Everyone blamed the innocent girl until one video exposed the truth. They called me a thief, a liar, and a disgrace in front of the whole school. I stayed silent because I knew one forgotten security camera had recorded everything they tried to hide. My name is Avery. I was 17 when the whole town decided I was guilty. Not the police, not a judge, not anyone who had actually seen what happened. The town, teachers, parents, students, people who had smiled at me one day and whispered about me the next, all because a rich girl cried, and poor girls are easy to blame. I lived with my aunt in a small town outside Denver after my mother died. My aunt was not cruel, but she was tired. She worked nights at a grocery store, slept during the day, and reminded me often that feeding one more person was not easy, so I learned not to ask for much. I wore second-hand clothes. I packed cheap lunches. I studied in the library until closing because our apartment was too noisy. And I worked weekends at a small bakery called Morning Grace, washing trays and boxing pastries for extra money. I was quiet, not weak, quiet. There is a difference. At school, I had one goal. Graduate, get a scholarship, leave. I did not care about popularity, parties, or expensive sneakers. I cared about grades, college applications, and making enough money to buy my own shampoo without asking my aunt. But then there was Brooke. Brooke came from one of the richest families in town. Her father owned car dealerships. Her mother ran charity events. Her house had a gate, a fountain, and a kitchen bigger than our entire apartment. Brooke was beautiful in a way that made teachers forgive her before she even apologized. Long blonde hair, perfect smile, soft voice around adults, sharp tongue around anyone she thought was beneath her, and for some reason she hated me. Maybe because I got better grades. Maybe because her boyfriend, Mason, once asked me for help with chemistry. Maybe because people like Brooke can feel insulted when someone poor refuses to act ashamed. It started small. She would look at my shoes and say, "Vintage." Her friends would laugh. She would pass me in the hallway and whisper, "Scholarship princess." At lunch, she once held up my sandwich bag and said, "Is this from a food bank?" I took it back and said, "No, it's from my kitchen." She smiled. "Same thing, probably." Everyone laughed. I did not. That bothered her more. Bullies want a performance, tears, anger, anything they can point at and say, "See, she's the problem." I gave her nothing. For months I survived that way. Head down, grades up, heart locked. Then came the winter charity gala. Every year our school hosted a fundraiser for local children's hospital programs. It was a big deal. Parents came in suits and gowns, students volunteered, local businesses donated expensive items for auction. Brooke's mother chaired the event. Brooke was everywhere that night, wearing a silver dress that probably cost more than my aunt's monthly rent. I was there too, not as a guest, as a volunteer. I helped arrange dessert tables because the bakery I worked for had donated pastries. My boss, Mrs. Alina, trusted me to deliver and set everything up. Before leaving the bakery, she handed me 2 large boxes of mini cakes and said, "Avery, keep the receipt envelope with you. The school office needs it for donation records." I placed the envelope in my backpack and promised I would. At the gala, everything looked beautiful. White tablecloths, gold lights, soft music. People laughing like the world had never been heavy. I was arranging lemon tarts when Mason walked over. Mason was Brooke's boyfriend, but he was not like her. He was polite, sometimes awkward. He had asked me for chemistry help twice, and both times I helped him because chemistry did not care who was dating whom. He picked up a tart and said, "These look amazing." I said, "They're for guests." He smiled, "I'm a guest." "You're also stealing before the auction starts." He laughed. Across the room, Brooke saw us. Her smile disappeared. I looked away immediately. I should have known then. Some people do not need a reason to hurt you. They only need an excuse. Around 8:30, the auction began. The biggest item of the night was a diamond bracelet donated by a local jeweler. It sat inside a glass case near the stage, surrounded by flowers and a small velvet display. Everyone talked about it. Brooke's mother proudly announced it was worth $18,000. I remember that number because my aunt made less than that in several months. At 915, I was in the side hallway near the storage room, breaking down empty pastry boxes. The hallway was quieter than the ballroom. There was an old security camera in the corner, one people barely noticed because the newer cameras were all near the entrance and front office. I noticed it because I noticed everything. When you grow up poor, you learn to know where exits are, who is watching, and what kind of room you are standing in. I threw away the last box and returned to the ballroom. 10 minutes later, someone screamed, not a small scream, a sharp, dramatic, everyone look at me scream. Brooke's mother stood near the display case, one hand on her chest. The bracelet is gone. The music stopped, people turned, a teacher rushed over. The principal came from the lobby, the glass case was open. The velvet stand was empty, and within seconds the room changed. Laughter became whispers, smiles became suspicion. Everyone looked at everyone. Then Brooke looked at me, slowly, deliberately, like she had been waiting for this part. She said, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Avery was near the storage hallway." My stomach dropped. The principal turned toward me. I said, "I was breaking down bakery boxes." Brooke stepped closer. Her eyes were shiny like she was about to cry. She also has a backpack. I looked down at my backpack by the dessert table. Suddenly, everyone else looked too. My face burned. The principal said, "Avery, please bring your bag here." I should have said no. I should have asked for my aunt. I should have asked for Mrs. Alina. But when you are poor in a room full of rich people, refusing makes you look guilty before you even speak, so I brought the bag. My hands were shaking. The principal opened it. Books. Notebook, bakery receipt envelope, phone charger, a sweater. Then his hand stopped, his face changed. He pulled out a small black velvet pouch. I had never seen it before. Brooke gasped. Her mother cried, "That's from the jeweler." The principal opened the pouch. Inside was the bracelet. The room exploded. Whispers, gasps. Someone said, "Oh my God." Someone else said, "I knew it." I stood frozen. I could not even breathe. The principal looked at me with disappointment so heavy it felt rehearsed. "Avery," he said, "why would you do this?" I didn't. My voice came out small, too small. Brooke's mother stepped forward. "That bracelet was donated for sick children." I didn't take it. Brooke shook her head like she was heartbroken for me. "Avery, just tell the truth. Maybe people will help you." That sentence did something to me, not because it hurt, because I understood. This was not an accident. She had planned this. She had placed it in my bag, and now she was playing kind. I looked at Brooke. She looked back with tears in her eyes and victory in her smile. The police were called. My aunt arrived wearing her grocery store uniform, hair messy, eyes full of fear. I will never forget the way people looked at her, like she had failed to raise me. Like poverty had finally shown its true face. The officer asked me questions in a small office. "Where were you? Why was the bracelet in your bag? Did you need money? Had you ever stolen before?" Every question had the same shape: guilty, guilty, guilty. I kept saying, "I didn't take it." But truth without proof sounds weak in a room that already chose a villain. Because I was under 18, they released me to my aunt while they investigated. But the damage was already done. By midnight, everyone at school knew. By morning, social media had decided. Someone posted a picture of me leaving the gala with the caption, "Scholarship girl stole from sick kids." It spread fast, too fast. Students commented, not surprised. "She always looked sketchy. Imagine stealing from charity." Poor doesn't mean thief, but sometimes it does. I read those comments in the bathroom before school and threw up. My aunt told me not to go, but I went. I thought if I stayed home, people would think I was hiding. The moment I walked into school, the hallway went quiet. Then the whispering started. Brooke stood by her locker with her friends. She looked at me and shook her head, like I had disappointed her, like she was the victim. In English class, no one sat beside me. In chemistry, Mason tried to speak to me, but Brooke appeared at the door and he looked away. At lunch, someone placed a printed picture of a bracelet on my table with the words "Found IT" written underneath. I picked up my tray and left. That afternoon, the principal called me into his office. He said I would be suspended pending investigation. I said, "You haven't even checked the cameras." He sighed. "Avery, the bracelet was found in your bag. That means someone put it there." He looked tired, or maybe he wanted me to be tired. The main ballroom camera had a technical issue during that time. I stared at him. "Of course it did." His face tightened. "Watch your tone." I almost laughed. My life was falling apart and he cared about tone. I said, "What about the hallway camera near the storage room?" He blinked. "What hallway camera?" "The old one, near the side hallway, above the emergency exit sign." He looked uncertain for the first time. "I'll ask maintenance." But I could tell he did not believe it would matter. People had already chosen the story. Poor girl, temptation, theft, shame, simple, clean, easy, but truth is rarely easy. 2 days passed. I stayed home. The school emailed assignments, but I could not focus. Mrs. Alina from the bakery came to visit. She brought soup, bread, and the kind of anger only good people carry when someone hurts a child. She sat at our small kitchen table and said, "I know you didn't steal that bracelet." My aunt started crying. I looked down. "How do you know?" Mrs. Alina reached across the table and touched my hand. "Because I know your hands. They work, they don't take." That was the first time I cried, really cried, not silent tears, not bathroom tears, the kind that breaks out of you because someone finally believes you. The next morning, everything changed. At 7:40, my phone started buzzing. 1 message, then 5, then 20. Amber from my English class texted, "Avery, did you see the video?" My heart stopped. "What video?" She sent a link. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. The video was from a school account someone had leaked anonymously. It showed the side hallway near the storage room. Grainy, black and white, no sound, but clear enough. At 9:17 p.m., Brooke walked into the hallway carrying a small black velvet pouch. She looked around. Then she opened my backpack, which I had left beside the pastry boxes for less than 1 minute while I took trash to the bin. She slipped the pouch inside. Then she fixed her hair, wiped her face like she was preparing to cry, and walked back toward the ballroom. The video ended. I watched it once, then again, then again. My aunt covered her mouth. Mrs. Alina, who had come early to drive me to a lawyer consultation, whispered, "Thank God." But I did not feel relief. Not yet. I felt numb because the truth was out, but the wound was still there. By 8:15, the video was everywhere. Students reposted it. Parents shared it. People who had called me a thief suddenly became very quiet. Then the apologies started. "Sorry, Avery, I didn't know. That's crazy. Brooke is evil. I always thought something was off." "Hope you're okay." I stared at those messages and felt nothing, because they were not apologies. They were people trying to escape the shame of being wrong. At 9:00, the principal called my aunt. He wanted us to come to school immediately. This time we did not rush. My aunt took a shower, changed clothes, put on lipstick. Mrs. Alina came with us. So did a lawyer she knew from a church client. When we arrived, the same hallway that had gone silent for my shame now went silent for a different reason. Students stared. Teachers avoided my eyes. Brooke was not there. Her locker was closed. Her friends stood in a corner looking pale. In the principal's office, the principal, Brooke's parents, 2 school board members, and a police officer were waiting. Brooke sat beside her mother. No silver dress now, no perfect smile. Her eyes were red. But this time her tears had nowhere to go. The principal began with, "Avery, we are deeply sorry for what happened." My aunt said, "That is not enough." The room went still. My aunt was not loud. She did not yell, but her voice had steel in it. "You let them call my niece a criminal. You suspended her. You let students destroy her name, and you did not even know your own camera existed." The principal swallowed. "We are reviewing our procedures." The lawyer beside us said, "You will also be reviewing liability." Brooke's father leaned forward. "Let's not make this uglier than it already is." Mrs. Alina laughed once, sharp. "It became ugly when your daughter framed an innocent girl." Brooke started crying harder. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." For the first time I spoke. "Yes, you did." Everyone looked at me. My voice did not shake. You put the bracelet in my bag. You told people I was near the hallway. You acted like you felt sorry for me. You watched them call the police. You watched my aunt cry." Brooke whispered. "I was upset because Mason talked to me." Her face changed. There it was, the truth behind the truth. Her mother looked at her. Brooke wiped her face. She was always around him. I stared at her. "I helped him with chemistry twice." Brooke snapped. "He said you were smart." The room went silent. That was it. That was the reason, not money. Not charity, not the bracelet. A boy had called me smart, so she tried to ruin my life. The police officer asked Brooke to stand. Her mother gasped. "Wait, is that necessary?" The officer said, "Your daughter filed a false statement and created evidence in a theft investigation." Brooke looked at her father. "Dad." But her father had no answer. Money can buy silence sometimes. It cannot erase video. The school expelled Brooke quietly, though everyone knew. Her family paid to recover damages, legal fees, and therapy costs. My aunt wanted to refuse the money at first, but the lawyer said, "Do not protect people from consequences they earned." So we accepted, not as payment for pain, as proof that what happened was real. The principal resigned before the school board hearing. 2 teachers who had spread rumors were formally disciplined. The students who posted about me online were required to issue written apologies, but I read only 3 before stopping. They all sounded the same. "I'm sorry if my words hurt you, if," that tiny coward word. "If." A week later I returned to school. People moved differently around me now, careful, guilty. Some tried to be friendly, some acted like they had always believed me. One girl said, "I knew you wouldn't do that." I looked at her and said, "You commented not surprised under the post." Her face went red. I kept walking. Mason found me after chemistry. He looked miserable. "Avery, I'm sorry." I was tired of sorry, but I stopped. He said, "I should have defended you." "Yes." He looked down. "I was scared of Brooke." "I was scared too." "That made him look up," I said, "but I was the one losing everything." He nodded slowly. "You're right." I walked away, not because I hated him, because I had finally learned that silence is also a choice, and his silence had chosen Brooke until the video made truth safe. Months passed. The town moved on because towns always do. People found new gossip, new scandals, new stories, but I did not move on the same way. I changed. I still graduated, with honors. When I walked across the stage, my aunt cried so hard Mrs. Alina had to hand her tissues. Some people clapped louder than usual, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of respect. I accepted both and needed neither. I received a scholarship to study criminal justice. That surprised people. They expected nursing, teaching, business maybe. But after everything, I wanted to understand evidence, systems, rights, the difference between truth and what powerful people can make others believe. On graduation night, I went back to the school hallway alone. The side hallway near the storage room. The old security camera was still there. Small, dusty, almost forgotten. That little camera had saved my future. Not because it cared, because it recorded, because truth, once preserved, becomes harder to bury. I stood beneath it for a long time. Then I whispered, "Thank you." 4 years later, I became a legal advocate for students and families who could not afford private attorneys. My first office was tiny, with 1 desk, 2 chairs, and a printer that jammed every Tuesday. But people came. Mothers whose children were blamed for things they did not do. Workers accused by bosses who wanted a scapegoat. Students bullied by rich kids whose parents donated to the school. Every time someone sat across from me and said, "No one believes me," I remembered myself at 17. I remembered the bracelet, the whispers, my aunt's uniform, Brooke's fake tears, and the video, so I would lean forward and say, "Start at the beginning. I believe you enough to listen." That sentence matters. It does not mean every person is automatically innocent. It means they deserve to be heard before they are destroyed. Years after the gala, I saw Brooke again. I was leaving a courthouse after helping a family settle a school discrimination case. She was standing near the steps, older now, quieter. Her blonde hair was shorter. Her face had lost that polished cruelty. For a second, we just looked at each other. Then she said, "Avery." I nodded. "Brooke." She held a folder against her chest. I heard what you do now. I said nothing. She continued, I've wanted to apologize for years. I gave a small breath. Then apologize. She blinked like she expected me to make it easier. I did not. She swallowed. I'm sorry I framed you. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I let everyone blame you when I knew the truth. For the first time, she did not say if that mattered, but it did not fix everything. I said, thank you for saying it clearly. Her eyes filled with tears. Do you forgive me? I looked at the courthouse doors behind her, then back at her. I don't carry you every day anymore. That's as close as I can give you. She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Either way, I walked away free, not because everyone apologized, not because the town finally believed me, not because Brooke suffered consequences, but because I stopped needing the people who broke my name to rebuild it. I rebuilt it myself. So here is what I learned. People love a simple villain, especially when that villain is poor, quiet, different, or alone. They will believe the first story that makes them feel comfortable. They will share it, repeat it, decorate it with their own assumptions. And when truth finally comes, many will apologize only because the evidence leaves them no choice. But innocence does not become real only when a camera proves it. You are not guilty just because a crowd says your name with hatred. You are not what frightened people, jealous people, or powerful people call you. And sometimes, the truth is sitting quietly in the corner, recording everything, waiting. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And comment below, have you ever seen an innocent person blamed? Or do you think Avery was right to walk away from people who only believed her after the video?